Not be on mute again. I do that quite often, don't I? I just wanted to come on and welcome everyone to Amazing Transformations. I am so very excited that you have joined us. Let me just take a look here and see. Our guest should be here very shortly. And so if I don't start the live stream, I realized. Um, by mistake one time that if I don't reschedule it and I don't start it, then it will just delete itself and I'll have to create a new link. And I know I've shared this with a bunch of people, so I wanted to just come on and let you know what we'll be discussing, and our guest will be here, like I said, momentarily. So today I have a very special guest. I know we've spoken with a vegan chef before, but this is my first time that I think speaking with an actual vegan restaurant owner. So not someone who has a couple of plant-based options. And we all know what a struggle that is when we, try to eat out, especially I know in many areas, like in my area here where I am now, this restaurant happens to be where I grew up. So I was joking with Nancy and telling her, like, I left too soon. The vegan restaurants were coming. But when I lived there, of course, I wasn't vegan. As you know, this is a new experience. For me, fairly new. I've been vegan close to 5 years. April 5th will be my 5th year, and either have been raw vegan, which means uncooked, or I've been very high raw vegan, where I eat mostly a lot of, fruits, vegetables, salads, and then I have also been whole food plant based. And that's including, cooked whole food. And then I've also delved in the processed foods, as well. So this is an exciting time for me to talk with her and find out what options she has. And I also want to kind of delve into not only her vegan journey. Thank you, J&J Video Reacts. Go over there and subscribe to her channel. She said, absolutely love your content. It's amazing. Thank you, Dawn, my co-host, who has her own show that she's doing, today. And so I'm not able to have her here. However, we'll both be on her channel tomorrow discussing reality TV over there on J&J Video Reacts, a fun show we do. And then she will be here Wednesday when we will be joined by a very special guest. And I'll be announcing that. I always talk about my next one at the end of the stream. So, Nancy is a vegan restaurant owner, and I want to talk to her about how she became vegan. We're also going to discuss how she selected the name Wild Heart Bistro. I love it, and I want to know how she came up with that name. I want to know what made her decide to open a completely plant-based restaurant, because, as you know, that is a difficult market sometimes. However, I think there's a huge need for it, and if more of those would open up with delicious, plant-based, plant-sourced food, how many people would, go there? And I know that her restaurant, she's discussed, is appealing to everyone, meaning, you're not fully vegan, you don't have to be scared to go there, because that's where I think the curiosity comes in, and people try this and say, wait a minute, okay, I thought, vegan food was boring, or I thought there was, no options. I thought it was going to taste like, plastic, or that it's fake food. And you realize that when you use whole real ingredients, that it actually tastes better. And I've heard from a lot of chefs that they actually can, combine their creativity even better by not using the traditional products. We all know that it's healthier, it's lower in cholesterol, and it is something that if we can let people know, I feel like that food can taste really good and still be plant sourced, plant-based, different than what they're used to. That might help us create a more compassionate world. So I'm interested to hear her story, her journey, and talk about these topics. I want to know what dishes she serves. That vegan cheesecake looked so delicious. I'm like, oh, that's not on my meal plan right now, but you know what? I would have to try a bite of that. I guarantee if I went there. And then, at some point, because we have family in Baltimore, I'm gonna have to go there and visit, right? Dawn, if you're still listening, we have got to make it a point next time we go. Maybe we'll bring the entire family over there and try the food. And so, welcome, Nancy. I know I just got a message. I know I just did the same thing as I opened the window and it all started blowing. So I'm
Well,
like,
you,
oh well. I'll probably end up with it in a ponytail before the end of the stream. If you watch my streams, I usually start out like this and then I get hot or something happens and I'll have my hair up in a bun
that's
by the end.
funny. Well,
But
I wear my hair up, pulled up and back, and tied every day for hours because I'm in my food stall.
right, yes,
So,
that's true. Probably feels good to put
so
it
it's
down
really nice to have it down. Yeah. Oh, it feels so good to have it down.
sometimes. And Nancy, is it Poznak or Poznak?
It's Poznak.
Poznak. All right. So I got one name right this year. I'm doing good. I usually pronounce the wrong, what is that? I guess the vowel wrong. But I'm so happy you're here and welcome. And the name of your
Yeah.
restaurant is Wild Heart Bistro, right?
Yes.
And it's in Baltimore, like I was saying before you came on, like my hometown, which is so cool. And
Really?
yes, I
Huh.
mean, I've moved a couple hours away in Ocean City now, but
Oh, wow.
I'm not too far from you, so I
Right.
definitely haven't been up there in a while. So the holidays are coming. Maybe we can
Yeah.
pop in. So tell us, like, I guess let's start before we get into the restaurant. When did you like become interested in being vegan, or was it a slow process, or have you been vegan
No.
forever?
Well, yes and no. I went vegetarian when I was 17, 16, 17, and I did it because I thought it was more spiritual. And it probably is. Um, but it was vegetarian, so I was still eating, animal dairy and eggs. And then I did that for about 7 years. And when I got into my early 20s, I slowly started going back eating animal products again, but I never went back to eating red meat.
Okay.
And I couldn't really explain why, but there was just something about it that kind of grossed me out, I guess, and maybe health too.
Mm-hmm.
And then over the years, I don't know at what point I started drinking soy milk. That was at the time when only soy milk was pretty much the only option, and soy cheese. And I did it for health reasons because I thought it would be healthier, and it is. I was doing Earth Balance, and then I do other vegan butters now, but I actually do have some Earth Balance. The big problem I have with it is they use some palm oil in it,
Mhm.
which
We
I,
were using Earth Balance when we were eating a lot of things with that on it when I explored a lot of the processed foods, and then
yeah.
Dawn ended up saying she liked Country Crock plant butter better, and because it had like avocado oil and olive
Oh,
oil, they have
right.
like that. So I was
Yeah,
like, okay, well, I'll
right.
just switch because it's probably healthier, like you said.
Yeah, yeah. Palm oil is really bad for you, and we know the damage it does to the rainforest. But what I've learned is that animal agriculture is far worse. And palm oil is really hard to avoid. It's in so many things. And quite often it might even be at the end of the list, so there might not be that much in there, but it can be confusing to me because they say that there is such a thing as sustainable palm oil, but that doesn't mean anything about destroying the wildlife to get it. And we pretty much everything we do, we destroy wildlife. We build our homes, we build cities, we drive. So pretty much everything we do, we destroy wildlife anyway. So we all we can do is try to, lower our impact. And one of the things I've thought a lot about after going vegan was how that we can't really for humans to exist on this planet, we use resources, but we have to learn to not use resources to the extent we are now where the earth can't recover. So we're not going to stop using resources as long as we're alive on this planet, but we have to figure out ways to make sure that we don't overreach so far like we are now. And what I learned, and this was right after going vegan, was how much animal, fowl, and fish agricultures are way overly destructive. And with the 8 billion and growing population on the earth, the only way to maintain, to even attempt to maintain a balance, is to be to eat in literally an entirely plant-based, plant-sourced vegan diet. You know, that I'm convinced that's the only way. And I know that that can sound very drastic to some people, like, well, I'm gonna, you know, it's not good enough for you, I'm eating less. Like, it's great that you're eating less. Fantastic. But the truth is, and we really need to face this, that we, eating, plant sourced foods is got to become the mainstay, and at least that. So then back to going vegan. Then in June of 2014, I joined a pig wrestle protest on Facebook, and I had never heard of a pig wrestle, but it's basically like a rodeo using a pig. And they take this pig and put the poor little creature in a mud pit. And pigs are very sensitive, easily scared. And they chase this pig around. The people throw themselves on the pig, and the little kids get in on it. They grab the pig, put him on a barrel or her on a barrel, and then just let the pig drop to the ground. And
Oh
they
my
take the
goodness.
pigs off a farm, and then they have to kill them the next day, because once they're off the farm, they can't go back on the farm. Anyway, so I learned about this, and I was just horrified. I mean, it was done at a church too. So that was what got me started thinking about how we treat animals. And through that protest, I came across some undercover videos of animal agriculture. And that just completely ripped through my entire being. I went, this is just so wrong. I had no idea
Yeah.
this was going on. And so I said, I'm going to look into this. And I did. And I documented pretty much everything I learned on a website called Harp for Animals,
Okay.
HARPFOR animals, plural.com.
I'm gonna
And
write that.
and
I'm
at
gonna
the time that I was
write
researching this, I had to go through so many different sites. I went through as many objective places too, like university sites, or sites that were, science sites that had research. And I went to some vegan sites too, but I wanted to make sure that I was being really thorough about it. And within a week, I was convinced, completely convinced, to go vegan. And it felt like this, like, great awakening.
Mm-hmm.
Didn't feel like I was being punished. Now,
Right.
now you have to eat tofu. I'm like, I've been eating tofu, but what didn't
Right.
like a deprivation or a punishment. It was like, wow, this is incredible. This whole world of food that I never knew. I always loved eating salads, and I loved really healthy, fresh food, and I still do. And there was just something in me that just woke up. And then I remembered what I was thinking when I was 16 and 17, so when I went vegetarian, and all of the things I learned then. And I knew at that point, I remembered we really don't have to eat animals. We can be
Mhm.
perfectly happy and healthy, and so even healthier. Even every major health and nutrition organization actually has an official statement
Mhm.
that a well-balanced vegan diet is the healthiest.
Yeah.
There's challenges in any diet that people have, any way of eating. There are still challenges. There's pitfalls and benefits, even in eating plant-based, but you just find your way through that. So I
Exactly.
became very passionate about this cause and helping people. I'm convinced that people really need to be educated, not yelled at, not ridiculed, and definitely not insulted. I feel that's one of the worst things we can do, to just like insult people because they're not vegan or whatever. They're different than we are. But and I learned about the different motivations that people have, like what motivates people to eat the way that we do.
Mhm.
And it's very complex, it's very deep, and it's not so simple as just to say, "Well, just go vegan." I mean, it's not
Right.
simple for most people. I wish it was, but it isn't. And it's a very, very social experience. And I've also found that when people, have the options, they'll try them. They'll go for it. So
Mhm.
a big reason why it's still been difficult for people is because of accessibility and availability. So to bring a vegan, or I say plant sourced, in my advertising into a place where there isn't any is so important. It's vital advocacy. And
Mhm.
so that's really how I see it, as something that making this available and accessible. I have a brochure I designed, and I have magazines from the Vegetarian Resource Group. They have a vegan journal now. And so I always have those on display, and people take them. And I have really great conversations with so many people, and there's a lot of interest. And I know most of the people that buy me food are not even vegetarian,
Yeah.
probably, but they're interested and they're open to it. So it feels like a really wonderful thing.
Oh, that's excellent. And I was going to say that, like, the fact, I think the biggest challenge that I know a lot of people, they may turn their, what do they say, like turn a blind eye to the suffering and things that go on, and think, this animal is to love, this animal is to
Right.
eat. We're all programmed that way, and that's how I was brought up, and I just
Yeah.
began this at 42. So definitely I love your message of not ridiculing people, because I
Yeah.
wouldn't have thought I was a bad person of something I
No.
didn't even know, or connect. And it's like,
Right.
once you make that connection, like you said, it is such an eye-opening experience. You want
Yeah.
to tell everyone, and then there's that
Yeah.
thing where they're like, yeah, but I wouldn't know what to eat. And it's
Right.
like, the fact that you're taking that and taking someone that might just be interested, oh, new restaurant in the area, I'm going to come in and try it.
Right.
They're trying it, and then you're giving them the information, like, hey, here's why I do this type
Right.
of work to make it only plant sourced. And I love
Right.
plant sourced because
Yeah.
it is scary to people, and crazy vegan lady I am, I have it all over, I get all the comments, right? So
Actually, that would make a great t-shirt, Crazy Vegan Lady.
I love it, right? Welcome, Diesel Dan. Thank you for stopping in. I really appreciate it. If you have any questions for Nancy, let us know. And so you bring them in, they're getting this delicious food, and
Mhm.
like, wow, this isn't so bad. Because I've mentioned, like, to a lot of vegans have mentioned on here. I think Angela, that was on last week or 2 weeks ago, said, that's one of the reasons she got curious about it. And then there's the whole, well, I'm vegetarian, and we go on this progression, because it's like you find out what really goes on, not only in the
Oh
meat, but
God.
dairy.
Yeah.
And it's like, then it gets really,
Yeah. They're
and
all the
so,
same industries. Animal dairy, the animal egg, they're all the meat, it's all the same.
what
There's
are,
really no difference among them. It's not better. You're consuming less animal products if you're not eating flesh, but you're still consuming animal products, and inherently there's problems in that, like, when people, like I always say, like, whatever reasons people want to be vegetarian, they can really only be accomplished by actually going vegan.
Mhm.
And so it can be a really touchy subject for people. People can get very defensive, and I realize that one of the reasons why people don't want to hear about the horrors, it's not because they don't care, it's because they do care. It's
Yeah.
because they do, and it's very painful, and you're like pulling the rug out from under
You're
them,
like, but I
saying,
need
don't
my
stand there, and it's all they've ever
animals for
known.
health, right?
Right, it's all they've ever known. And when you say, "Don't stand there," you're not really helping them. You have to show them the path ahead and say, "Look at this wonderful place over here, and it's delicious, and it's beautiful, and it's colorful." And they'll go, "Oh, yeah, that looks really good." And then with education and information, they'll move there on their own. You can't, like, force people out of it. And
Exactly.
the social aspects are so binding, and wanting to be, having the safety and the comfort of your tribe, so to speak. And when you step out of that, there can be it can be life threatening in people's perception to lose that support of the crowd. So that's why we really need to create a warm and welcoming movement. And bashing and insulting people only pushes them further away. It really does. There might be 1 in 10,000 people that may get inspired that way. The heavy hand, like, and there might be, but you've got 9,999 people that you're pushing away. That doesn't really help the cause any.
Imagine if more people did what you did, and opened, not appeal to the quote unquote the masses, but open these restaurants with, helping the environment, helping animals,
Yeah.
helping people get healthier
Mhm.
and tasting good. That's the important thing, is you don't want someone's first vegan meal that they ever tried to not be good. And of course, there's things I don't like that are vegan, and there's things I like
Right.
better. But in and what do you feel like is one of your most popular dishes you serve?
Oh, people ask me that all the time, and I would say I have a bean burger, a black bean burger that's made by a local chef, and people get that a lot, and most people really love it. Um, I also serve the Beyond Meat burger, and I've been surprised at how many people have never heard of the Beyond Meat burger.
I have heard of it and had many of them
Yeah,
in the
yeah,
time
yeah.
I've been vegan. Dawn loves them.
Yeah, and the salads do well sometimes. My signature dish is what I call the guacamole in Paris, and it's a just egg patty with melted cheese and guacamole, lettuce, artichokes, onions, and I have it some dressing, and that's done pretty well. Um, and I have a chickpea salad. It's a very
My favorite.
typical, yeah, it's a very typical thing to have, but a lot of people, at least in this place I'm at, have never had it or heard of it. So there's a big gap between what vegans typically eat and what vegans might expect when going out, and what the rest of the world, is novel to. To many of us, it's like, oh, it's no big deal. Like I have a tofurkey sandwich, and I'd gotten some feedback earlier on that, it's no big deal. And I say, well, actually, yes, it is, because most people have never even tried it or heard of it or had no idea that there was any such thing as plant-based deli meats.
Mm-hmm.
And the food I serve is mostly simple. I don't have a lot of fancy meals, exotic fancy stuff that would, I think, be great to have. I don't have the space or the time for that, to tell you the truth. But I also know that not everybody wants something, a meal to be that entertaining. A lot of people just want something that they're used to, that's simple, that they can relate to the food, they see what's in it. And there, right next to me is a stall where they have a lot of their marketing is traditional food. They have a lot of sandwiches with deli meats and things like that. They're simple sandwiches, but they're very, very popular. But there's a big barrier right now in perceiving like vegan meats and dairies if they're not real food.
Mm-hmm.
People think, oh, they're all processed. And some are, but not all of them are. And not all processing is wrong or bad.
But I think,
Yeah.
you have to, especially in your situation, appeal to a variety of audience, because you're already appealing to a very small market, in a sense, of vegans who may not, even if a lot of people cook their own food too, and don't come out 5 nights a week. So you have to look at, if someone is just quote unquote, we're all vegan for animals, but there are people who don't care that they're eating processed foods, and that's what they want when they go out, and it's still like a level different than eating
Right.
the actual cholesterol in the animal. So I'm like, so you pretty much are, giving the people what they want, and then if they want something, more plant sourced that is whole food, you have that
You
too.
have
And it
to.
sounds like you have salads, which
I
looks so
do. I
good.
have
That
really
would
good.
be my thing.
I
So
have a salad that I call the indulgent forager, and
mm,
it's got a lot of stuff in it. And it's very unique to have a salad like that to be able to eat out, especially at a place like in a mall, like a food court, where just a ton of stuff in the salad. And I just recently did one up and took a picture of it and put it on my Facebook page and also on my Wild Heart Bistro page. And it'll be on my website soon. And it's just this glorious looking salad. It's colorful and
mm.
it's so healthy and it looks delicious. And then I have, dressings that people can put on. Um, but there's such a visual appeal to that. And honestly, now if I like look at a piece of meat, it looks awful.
Disgusting, right? Yeah. If I smell it and
It's just like,
I'm
oh,
in an
that's a dead
apartment building, and sometimes
body.
I can smell the neighbor's
Yeah.
food. And I hope they don't hear me. I mean, it's probably good for
I
non-vegans, but for me, it
know.
smells terrible. Like, it's like,
Yeah.
oh, I don't even want my lunch now, which is funny because your smells, your taste, and your perception can change so quickly when this happens. You know, after
Right.
about 6 months, that began happening to me, and I'm like, my entire life that was a good smell, and now it's not. It wouldn't be a good taste, and I
Yeah.
only one bad experience. I ordered speaking of Beyond Burgers, when they first came out at Denny's, I was on the processed kick at that time, you know, trying all the stuff, you know,
Yeah.
and they sent a regular one, and I literally bit into it, and I knew immediately the smell, the texture. I just threw it down, spit it out, and called them like, "You sent me the wrong burger." Well, I never ate food after without examining it. After
Yeah,
that I got out, I would
yeah,
check, you know, I look like the crazy vegan lady sitting there looking through everything. Is there cheese? You sure there's nothing on it? Because it's
right.
that
Your
important to me
butter is
that
your
I don't
yeah. Well,
support
I have, like, vegan mayonnaise, and I get a lot of questions. People ask me a lot, "Is it vegan or is it all plant-based?" So I have to keep reassuring people that it is. And I think they're valid questions because of that. And one of my concerns when these first came out with the Impossible and the Beyond Meat was it could be so exactly like it that we might not know. People can serve us, and maybe we wouldn't know, but like you said, you could tell right away.
Oh, I've
So
had to look on the products sometimes, to your
yeah,
point, the vegan products, and be like, are you sure this isn't, you know? And then the longer, honestly, sometimes the longer you're vegan, you want something that actually tastes like a different type of whole food. Like sometimes you get away long enough, especially if you don't continue to eat a lot of imitation, and you start realizing, okay, it's not
right.
as important, but it's great transitional, food.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah. So I'm still evolving my menu and trying to figure out ways to, mostly at this point, it's also be more efficient because I'm often there by myself. And when I get more than like 3 orders, it can be really hard on me to get all them out in time. So there are times now and then where people have to wait too long, I know, to get their food. And I'm trying to figure out some way to alleviate that problem or to minimize it. So that's one of my next steps. But I also think I'm looking at making some casseroles and maybe like a spinach pie with feta cheese. I have Follow Your Heart Greek feta. It's so delicious. Oh, and those are two other things I have that have been popular. I have two wraps. I have a Greek Isles wrap with potatoes that have a Greek herb and spice mix on them, and I have a vegan tzatziki sauce that's really delicious. And then I put some lettuce and other stuff in it, and people love it. It's really, really good. And I have a bean burger wrap that hasn't been as popular. People like the bean burger, but somehow in the wrap, they're not as excited about it as I am.
It's too healthy, right?
Maybe, I don't know. Yeah.
Oh, I've had that sauce before, and that is really good. Um, and if you ever franchise or open another location, you've got to come to Ocean City. We don't have one vegan restaurant completely. We have vegan
Wow.
options occasionally, and some restaurants are getting
Wow.
better, but there is not one. So there's
Yeah.
definitely a huge market. I'm on a page
Right.
called Ocean City, Maryland Vegans, and people complain all the time, like, can we get
Right.
one full that we don't have to worry what pan it was cooked in with other food?
Yeah, yeah, that's a big problem, I know. But even for places that aren't vegan that have I still feel very strongly that we need to support those too.
Yes,
And I don't and I while it for us, I think it's wonderful, it's great if they can cook it on a different grill or like the fast food places, having those nuggets or whatever, and people get really bent out of shape because 'cause they're cooked in the same oil, but those as the animal product but those products, people really understand that those products actually are designed or their target market are people who are not vegan or vegetarian. The target market for those is purposely people who do eat animals to give them the same thing but a plant-based version in an effort to help curb the animal agriculture. And a lot of the marketing that's done on those products is really based on the environment. And I've seen, articles where they do talk about health and they do talk about animals, reducing animal suffering. I think there should be no animal suffering and no human suffering as well. That's
right.
imposed on humans upon other humans and animals. But we do live in a world where it's still pretty extensive, you know. So those things are for them. And the fact that that even a fast food place would have something like that, I think is incredible. And I don't think it's something that we do that we really benefit the animals or the cause of veganism by being negative about those, or even insisting that the places cook it separately. It would be great if they did, but they might not be able to, or it just might not be a concern for them, but they still want to sell it. So it's like, great, okay, you know, it then just don't eat it yourself. But it's really, we are not the target market for that. And I
That is
think we're
true.
missing a really important point when we get upset because of the way it's prepared, if it's tainted.
Welcome, Marquita Solis, Vegan Empowerment Coaching. She said, "Hi, ladies, love you both. We love you too."
Hi,
I spoke for
Marquita.
Nancy. I think she
Hello.
loves you, right? Everybody loves
Yeah,
Marquita. And she said we need to be flexible and celebrate the small wins. That's
absolutely.
really.
Actually, those are big wins.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, I never got excited about sausage before I was
Right.
vegan, but now there's like vegan sausage. I'm so happy. I'm
Right. This brings me, I had a question, I forgot, and then I just remembered, like cost wise, I know a lot of, like to your point, because people's main restaurant is, not plant based, they tell me it's expensive to get,
it is.
options, even like they could buy, obviously vegetables and things. But what
Right.
do you feel, is that a challenge for you to get things at a
Yes.
good cost?
It is very much so. I have a breakfast sandwich. It's actually been pretty popular too. It's a just egg with cheese, and I put field roast sausage on it. And
You
I,
get
I
all the good stuff. I noticed what you did. I've tried a lot of that stuff, and you got the best ones I've
yeah,
ever.
field roast. I like the ingredients. I like the way it's made. I don't think it's a super processed food. When I look at the ingredients, it's really more a food where the ingredients have just been blended together. Not that different from baking a cake. You could say a cake is processed, bread is processed, because they are. But like I was saying earlier, there's different levels and ways and reasons of processing. So it's not all horrible or bad, and it's also the world that we live in. You know, um, I've seen people wait in long lines for donuts and coffee, or one of the most successful vegan ventures of all, Slutty Vegan. People wait an hour in line, an hour or more just to order.
Hmm.
And then people get upset with me if they have to wait like 20 minutes for their food. I'm like,
It's so difficult. People
I
don't.
can't help it. I'm
I don't think
sorry.
until you've ever owned a business or even worked in a business
Yeah,
that you understand how difficult it is. Like you're the
very.
person focused on them. I'm here. I want my
Right.
food, and they don't realize that you're scrambling around. You have 10 of those same person at the same time. So I
Well,
commend you for doing that by yourself. My goodness.
the most I've had is 6, and that really just threw me completely off. And people had to wait quite a while, and I understand why they get upset. So I actually have some different systems I'm tossing around to help at least, um, you know, give people realistic expectations, so
When
they
did
don't,
you
so that
open?
if they do have to wait, a few people, when I've said it's going to be 20 minutes, said no, and they left.
Really?
I would actually rather have that happen than
Yeah.
have them come in and then have to wait 20 minutes or longer, because things got I just got overwhelmed. So I would actually rather than have them wait. But I feel like I won't go into it here, but I'm definitely mulling around some different systems to help the process. And I think that's a challenge for every food establishment. Is it's a big problem. How do you get things out in a timely manner? And a lot of it has to do with setting expectations up, things like that. But the other thing I'm finding is to convince people that it's actually real food. I actually put a sign up on the counter, real food for goodness sake. Because people have this perception that, oh, it's not real meat. Is it fake cheese? I've had people, was it real cheese? So I'll say, well, it is to me. And one of the things I say over and over again is, cheese, butter, ice cream, they're flavored fat. That's
Right.
basically what they are.
From
And there's
another
a caffeine.
animal, like
Yeah,
it feels like that's weird now instead of the other way around, right?
exactly. Yeah. Yeah. And so we just get the fat from plants instead. It's, chill. Hey, and then that makes a lot of sense to people. I think it's helped people understand. I do have some vegan ice cream too. I
Mm.
actually have Breyer's oat vanilla, and it's really
Is it
good.
good? I've never had
And
anything
it's a
like
trusted
Briar.
name, ice cream, yeah. And
Yes.
the ingredients are pretty good too. It was really surprising. And then I have a chocolate ice cream, and I settled on a salted caramel, and
Mm.
those are cashew based. But oat is good because there's people some people are lactose intolerant, and they're really open to eating the plant-based ice cream. And then there's people that have nut and allergies or other, things like that. So cashews are a big problem, and almonds are a big problem. So I really like the fact that there's oat based ice cream and coke. Well, I guess coconut would still be, people think of coconut as nuts. I don't know.
I don't,
I
but
don't
I
know.
I don't think it's
Yeah.
coconut. I don't think they're considered like
Yeah.
botanically, but I'd have to look into that
So
because I
so
just
back
learned a pea
yeah.
was a fruit not long ago.
Peas are legumes.
See, I'm hearing different
Peas are
things, so
legumes.
I don't
In
know.
fact, the
See, they're lying to me.
Beyond Meat is pea protein, and on their ingredient list, they actually have a statement, saying peas are legumes. And if you have a nut allergy or something, just to know that you want to be careful.
Interesting.
So,
See,
yeah, I'm pretty sure. I'm pretty sure. But yeah. So that's a problem because a lot of vegan dairy is cashew or almond or nut based, and I recently had a little scare with somebody that came to my stall and ate some food, and I forgot that there was nuts in the tzatziki sauce, and she had an allergic reaction.
oh
And
no,
so I felt horrible about it, but she's okay now. But it really scared me into thinking, okay, I have to really go all out and make
really
sure that
go,
people
and
are
that's with
safe.
any restaurant,
Yeah.
really, though.
And it can happen so easily because also sometimes people can develop allergies and they might not even know until they get a reaction. And when you have so many different ingredients in something, and then there's ingredients in the ingredients, and there's, some foods, they just say natural flavoring. You have no idea what that is. So you really have to be
Right,
so careful, especially if you are someone that has allergies. But there can be a food that might have a similar molecular structure to something you're allergic to, and all of a sudden you become allergic to something else, and you don't really know why. So you have to be really careful with that. But that's a big issue, a big problem in the food industry too as well. But back to opening up the plant-based restaurant and how I ended up going vegan. Well, like I said earlier, how I saw some undercover videos of animal agriculture, and that just shook me to the core. And then I was like, within that week, I got stopped eating everything, and I looked at even leather and all the different ways that we have that we use animals. And it was shocking to me how prevalent, animal use and abuse, animal foul fish is in so many things that we can't. Computers have parts, our tires, our cell phones. There's thousands of uses, and if you start to look at it, you just go completely crazy.
right.
So the big wheel though is eating animals. If we can stop that wheel, if we can really switch people to a plant-based, plant-sourced food system, that alone, will generate so many other changes. And there's millions, billions of dollars being pumped into alternatives for animal products. I have vegan leather bags. There's vegan cork leather. There's all kinds of things that are being developed now.
Oh, that's neat. And when did you open? Did you mention that? Was that last year?
Yeah, it was this year.
This year.
My opening date was March 1st. It was a Wednesday. I opened for lunch 5 days, and it was a really good thing to do, to just start slow. And that's mine. Start slow and then, work my way up and take one step at a time. So that's what I did. And I added more hours, and I've changed the menu, and I'm still working on revamping the menu as well. And, next thing is to really streamline my service so that it's rare that somebody would have to wait an extremely long time to get their food, because
That's cool.
that can be really tough. I know I would feel the same way. I'd feel like, what, 20 minutes for a burger? What's wrong with you? Like, "Oh, I'm sorry. I worked really hard back
Maybe they
here."
thought vegan food would be quicker, right? Because it's quote
I
unquote
don't
safe,
know.
right?
I don't
Just kidding.
know.
And
Well,
Marquita
especially
said, I like
young.
that you say real food, right? I love
Yeah,
it.
yeah, because it is real food, and, when I looked at how animals, in the system, in the food system, they're not even, natural species anymore. And what has to be done to them is so completely unnatural. And what they're fed and all of the pharmaceuticals and the substances that they have to be given to keep their body viable for
Yeah.
sale makes the most processed vegan food look like the healthiest thing on the planet.
That's true. And could you you had mentioned to me before, but and oh, I think I remember you were on the one of the old live streams I used to have when I had like a big panel of people. I
Oh,
remember you came on and we're talking about getting ready to open that at some point. You didn't have an
oh,
exact date. So
right.
I'll have to pull that out and send it to you.
Right. Oh, that's
I
funny. Yeah.
remembered you from that, and you just, it was like I had put out the link and a couple of people came on, and I was so happy that I'm like, I can't
Yeah.
wait for you to open. So I'm glad you've done it. You're doing well. Now you're in the process, like with any business, I think, just trying to make it efficient for you.
Yeah. Yeah.
And man, I forgot my question. Oh, the name. Could you mention why you came up with that
Oh,
name?
Wild Heart, yeah, Wild Heart Bistro. Oh, in my travels, in my advocacy, and I've talked to probably a few thousand people by now at least. A lot of people feel that eating animals is part of our true wild nature, and it's kind of glamorized that way. Like the paleo movement is to glamorize, eating animals like we're truly. But when you look at animal agriculture, there's nothing wild about it. It's quite the opposite.
Mm-hmm.
And and i and I realized that plant foods, now that's truly wild. Even though we have industrialized agriculture for plants also, plant foods are something people can grow in and around their homes. Local plant food can be localized, whereas animal agriculture really couldn't be. You can't do that in an urban or even a suburban setting, but plant agriculture can and be, truly wild. So that's why I came up with that, and I love the idea of the wild heart because it's such a heartfelt thing to me, and it was such a heartfelt opening, of so much more compassion and discovery. I remember when I first few months when I was doing all the research about, animal agriculture, fowl and fish, I came across information about cows. And I used to think they were fairly two-dimensional beings. I thought, well, what do they know one day from the next? I didn't really think about it. And they have personalities, and they're very social. They have families. I learned how the mothers will help each other, babysit for other cows, and
Mm-hmm.
and I learned, about the chickens, and I remember seeing that PETA saying, "Why love one but eat the other?" I remember seeing that well before I went vegan, and I remember my reaction was very just sort of unconscious. It was like, well, it's just as we do, you know. We take these animals and we put them in a little box, and we go, everybody else we love and respect, but
Mm-hmm.
these few animals, and that's the utility purpose. Is
Mm-hmm.
because people see a utility purpose and they believe they need to eat them. Most people still believe they need to. They're not bad people. They just truly believe they need to. So that's also another reason why they'll be very defensive and reject, hearing the horrors, because they're like, well, what am I going to do? No, I
Right.
eat this. I have to. And we're here saying, well, no, you don't.
Mm-hmm.
And part of saying no you don't and why is to have, like I was saying earlier, the vegan food accessible and available and have it really good, and show people that it's not hard. One of the things about my food being simpler is that it's most of my food you could make at home, so
Mm-hmm.
go ahead. You can
Yeah.
make the guacamole in Paris at home real easy. I don't have a problem with that.
As long as you do it or eat more plant-based, right?
Yeah,
That
yeah, you
makes
can
sense.
use the
Here, take the
egg,
recipe,
right?
right?
You can get and the vegan cheese it's a brand called Violife. I love it. It melts nicely.
I
Just
love
put
it.
a little bit of oil otherwise. The tofurkey you can buy in the store, but there are other plant-based meats that I'm looking into now as well to have. But part of my goal is to to make food that is not complicated, that is still good and creative and satisfying and fulfilling, but it's not super complicated food.
So a new vegan wouldn't, or not even new, but maybe a curious person coming with another vegan, let's just say, they wouldn't say, well, that's all good and well here, but I could never do that. See how this
Right.
looks complicated. So that's a really,
Yeah.
really cool idea.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so I was gonna say, do you feel like I feel like you're kind of a ambassador for change by opening a plant-based restaurant, because I do think, to your point, that's the only way to make it more accessible. And I
Yeah.
think if, is there a lot of other restaurants in the area, or is like,
There are. We have a nice selection of vegan places. If you look at how many restaurants in the area there are, let's say there's 500,000 restaurants, there might be like 20 vegan places. So it's not like we're, you know, taking over the city by any means, but there are some nice choices.
that's
Land of Kush has been around for over 10 years. I love their food. It's vegan soul food.
mhm.
And the owners, Nigel Wright Brown and Gregory Brown, are just amazing people. And Nigel coordinates the Vegan Soul Fest every year, where they get thousands and thousands of people. And the very, very few would be even vegan or vegetarian, but people are curious about it.
Mhm.
And live where else? There's a new Mexican place opening up. Chihuahua Brothers. I hope they open up soon. There's places like Golden West that have a ton of vegan food on their menu. And one of the co-owners of Golden West works with Nija to make vegan restaurant week or month, whatever it is now. And that's such a great idea. I can't rattle all. I know there's more that I'm not.
Well, that's okay. You didn't even have to name them. I was just wondering if
A
it's like
Refocus
only one.
Vegan downtown. There's a bunch more. There
Well,
are.
it
I
making me
actually have
jealous of
another.
all those, right?
I have another website called Botanic Cuisine, where I have a dining guide, a Baltimore dining guide, and I have vegan and places that are vegan friendly. I haven't updated it in quite a while. I need to get in there, but that's my legal entity is Botanic Cuisine, and Wild Heart Bistro is a DBA. So Botanic Cuisine
Okay.
DBA, Wild Heart Bistro. But yeah, so Wild Heart Bistro was really addressing the fact that eating plants is truly wild, and it's something. The switch is something that's
Mhm.
a very heartfelt thing to do.
That is amazing. And
Yeah.
how long before you, I heard you say you were doing research and things, you had this in mind for a while, or have you owned restaurants and just opened
No.
it? Okay.
Um,
Wow.
when
So
I
you're like
was doing,
doing so well for a new business.
yeah, I came up with it maybe a year and a half ago.
Okay.
Came up with the name, and I had been doing farmers markets and events and working out of commissary kitchen, and I find that to be really, really hard work. It was just too much, and the kitchens were expensive, and you have to prepare the food in the kitchen and then transport it and keep
Oh,
things
wow.
temperature controlled and then come back to the kitchen. And it was a lot of physical labor, which is good. There's nothing wrong with it, but I just found it was just too much. And when farmers markets, most of them are seasonal. And I was in an annual one. It was downtown at Fells Point, and that was nice, but that was once a week. And I really enjoyed doing festivals, and I hope that at some point in the future I can do some more things like that. If I grow my business and get more help, get more consistent help, I could, open up another farmers market booth someplace. But also with the farmers markets, the weather, it can be too cold, or it can be so hot, or you get a lot of rain here. So you end up losing a lot of days too. And I found that a really tough, for me, it was tough. Some people maybe have a different experience. So I really liked the idea of having a steady spot. And
Mhm.
I almost went into a different spot in Baltimore, and it didn't work out. And I'm glad I didn't go there, because even smaller than the space I have now, I have a very, very small space, but I'm making it work as much as possible. And then a friend of mine found this spot at Belvedere Square, where I am now, that was open. So I contacted the managing company and got in there.
Oh, that's amazing.
Yeah,
I just
it's a lot of work. It's a massive process to get certified. I had to get a safety manager certification, which I had actually had before. I had had one before, I figured that would be helpful. But when you own a spot or you have somebody who's going to manage a spot for you, they have to have that certification too for the health department. So there's a lot of safety measures. I remember when I went to get my license to open up my city license, I had a stack of papers like this big.
Oh my goodness. I can imagine. It was like,
Yeah.
oh
Yeah.
my goodness.
So
Oh, and
I'm
that's
sure what it's because I'm mission oriented. I'm not really just doing this for money.
right.
I would have
That's the
stopped a long
beauty of
time.
it. I can tell that, I think that you're wanting to get the message
Yeah.
out with food, which is,
Yeah.
I could tell people all day long standing on
Yeah.
the street, you need to eat more plants and this is why you should do it. And they'll think, yeah, that's great. And then they'll go home and not know what to eat because,
Exactly.
and
True.
or, it just doesn't seem
Yep.
feasible, and what you're doing is saying, "Hey, try this good food,
Right.
and by the way, take a brochure and see why
Yeah.
it's cool." I love it.
Yeah,
And
and
what
pretty
was
much
that?
everything like the Greek wrap that it came up with, it's like I said, nothing is really that complicated. It's things that people could do themselves, might not think about it, but just to put different combinations of foods together that they might not thought of, and things that are actually pretty easy to get too.
That's a great idea. I haven't, I think a lot of times there's vegan restaurant or places here that might add something, but it's always scarce whether it's going to stay on the menu because it's like, oh, we didn't sell enough, and then it's
Yeah,
gone. So at least when people walk in your restaurant, they'll know that they're going to have something plant based because it all is. So I
exactly.
love
Yeah,
that.
yeah,
And it's helping the environment, and
yeah.
I don't think a lot of people, even know
No,
what
they
the
don't.
impact of it, and that's the
They
cool
don't.
thing. We have to people like, I didn't know this before I knew it, so we have to find
Right,
ways to educate people, and not.
right. I feel it's really multifaceted. I don't think there's necessarily going to be any one thing that's going to just hit everybody over the head or in the heart.
Yeah.
And that'll be it. It seems that we have to have multiple points to help propel people forward. But one of the things about educating is people is that you have to give people enough knowledge and and confidence. You have to build up people's confidence. That's why insulting people is so wrong
Yeah.
because what you think about it in your relationship we co-create. If I
Mhm.
look at you and I only see what's wrong with you, then that's when I'm pull out of you, or that's all I'm going to see. But if I look at you and say, there's a really beautiful being in there, there's a wonderful heart, and I know that you care about others, I know you care about animals, and hook up with them that way, then you can help carry them along. But if you're approaching people like this, they're going to just fight back or run away. Now, that
Yes.
said, every now and then there's somebody that comes along, and I see this on social media, that continues to be really obnoxious.
Yeah, sometimes you just gotta delete
And
that
I
person.
have lost my patience a few times with them, but I feel like if we're going to, be confronting or even a little bit insulting, the people have to earn it.
I'm
Oh,
just, I don't mean to be looking away, but I realized I didn't
okay.
load your pictures in to share here, and I wanted to share a
Oh,
couple
sure.
of the, food dishes before we
Did you
end.
get my new one of my indulgent forager?
Did you send that to the, Facebook?
Yeah, it's on my Facebook page, and I believe
Oh,
it's
okay. I probably took these from, I think that's where I seen,
oh, okay. On my Facebook page, it's in Baltimore Vegans, and I'm not sure if I put it into Wild Heart Bistro yet.
what was the
But
name of it?
it's an indulgent forager. It's a salad, and it's very
Oh, right.
colorful. It's got layers of things across. You can't miss it.
I have, okay, I think I might have, I don't know if this is it, but I believe I have the bean burger, and then
Oh,
you
right.
said that cheesecake was coming
Oh,
up.
I
I put
know.
the breakfast sandwiches here, so I'll
I mean,
get
the
them
fact
saved.
that there's a cheesecake like that is awesome. I saw like a lot of people get really excited that Taco Bell has vegan cheese and the way they have fries or something.
Do they? I didn't even know
It's
that
like,
now. I don't ever eat out anymore,
yeah,
like.
I know. But I'm like, I get it. I'm thrilled that Taco Bell has something vegan too,
Right.
and I did a post about this too, and I said, I wish vegans got as excited about vegan food and vegan places.
Right, right. Well,
And
definitely, I think,
yeah,
like I said, and it takes time because people, are getting used to the idea. So you're probably going to start to get a lot of repeat. customers
I've
over
had some,
time,
yeah,
telling other people and
yeah,
sharing it. So
yeah,
I think that that's the cool thing about it. If you consistently have, tasty things,
yeah.
it's like there's no doubt that people are going to be excited about it because
Mhm.
and about you, because your passion for doing this is not like someone who's like, oh, I see a market and I want to, invest in that, or I'm going to put plant-based food, but then goes home and eats a cow. You know what I mean? So you're actually living this and have
Yeah,
and doing it for the, a lot of reasons. And I wouldn't care
right,
if a lot of people did it, it's still going to be helping my
right,
their motivation, but
right.
the fact that you do it for the compassion in it, is really
The
cool.
compassion, the environment, and health, all of those are really important to me.
Hmm.
I would say I'm not vegan just for the animals. I think that's fundamentally the core of it. That was what got me going. Was I think it's a matter of justice. Like we all know, animal cruelty is wrong, but
Right.
in order to make that switch, I had to get convinced that I could be healthy and enjoy the food too. Although I have to say, even if the health is really important, because if people believe they need to eat animals or fowl or fish to be healthy, they're not going to change. There's nothing that'll make them change if they feel they need it. So, and it has to be a decision that really comes from within them as well. So we can give them the support and the education, and then sometimes I just kind of take a step back and I just
Yeah.
let them absorb it and let them come to that conclusion themselves, because that's what the only way that people will stick with something. It's like the negative things push us away from something, the horrors and all that pushed me away from eating animals. But
Yeah.
then it's the positive things that pull people forward. And to
Mhm.
me, this was like such a glorious way to live. I just love it. I
It is
don't
love all the way around. It just feels right because
Yeah,
you're doing it for your
right.
health, you're doing it for the animals, you're doing it for the
Yeah,
environment, and there's so much the emotional and physical things. Like emotionally, you hear a lot of people say, I feel calmer, I'm more
yeah,
compassionate and forgiving of people, and my
right.
aura changed because, it's like it
Yeah,
just when you and I think that's why so many of us try so hard to like tell people about it.
mhm,
In a sense, we're not trying to push on you, I want you to
right.
eat what I eat. I think it's because we've made some connection that we feel like everybody needs to make, but
Yeah,
realizing we have to realize they're all on their own path,
right.
like we were. We couldn't,
Yeah.
and it's like we want to tell everybody everything all at once instead of, I know Mariquita speaks about that a lot,
Right.
like, and how to, really get it out there without being like threatening,
Yeah.
and helping people
And
understand.
not being afraid to speak the truth too.
Exactly
But
true. Yeah.
it's one thing to say, animals are suffering and you're or to say, had an experience where I saw undercover videos and I was horrified to see animals suffering. There's a completely two different ways of doing it. And the second one, like people will listen and it pulls them in. But when you like go on top of them and say, you're this and you're that and you're the reason. And I had done that actually in the first couple of years. I was so outraged and uh I hadn't really, reeled myself in yet. And I actually apologized to a couple people.
Yeah, I think I
Oh,
always
there it is. That's the Cerebella cheesecake with vegan whipped cream and delicious chocolate sauce. It's so
look
good.
at that. I
Oh
mean,
my God. Yeah.
I need that
Yeah,
right
we're really
now.
deprived, aren't we?
I'm supposed to be eating healthy today. Look what you've done now. You put these things. Is this one of the current things,
Yeah,
or is
that
this
is the Good Catch filet, and I grill it, and that's one way I serve it. I also make a sandwich with it too.
mm,
And it doesn't have a whole lot of flavor on its own. It really needs I put dressing on it, and that's another thing I want to work on too, like how to make it more flavorful dish. But for people that want to have a something that's similar to fish, that's really nice.
let's take a
Like,
look at this. Is this the
oh,
breakfast? No, this is the tofurkey, right?
yeah, that's the mama's big deli. I'm the
Look at that meat,
wild
guys.
mama's big deli.
It's the same as a regular sandwich and tastes good too. I've had that
Yeah,
product,
yeah,
so.
I put a little bit more meat on now, and I also do it as a melt, and then I add dressing. You can't really see the dressing. Now this is gluten-free bread, and I also have whole wheat bread, and I have some Kaiser rolls too.
Because this looks like is this like a rye type bread?
Um, probably similar. It's gluten-free and there's seeds in it, and I don't remember what. It's very hard to find gluten-free vegan bread because often egg whites are used or
Yeah.
something like that to bind it. So a good vegan gluten-free bread is hard to find. This is Little Northern Bakery. You get it from one of the stores around here. It's really nice.
And
Yeah, lettuce, onion, tomato. Oh, and that's the bean burger.
Sorry, you were still talking of that one.
That's okay. Yeah, the bean burger is nice. The one thing that I make sure people know is I let them know that because it's beans, it's soft. It's a soft bite. It's not like a traditional burger. And if you want more of a traditional burger, then you get the Beyond Meat burger.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
And then this is is that the Greek salad?
Yeah, this is the Greek wrap. And I like to show the wraps open like this so you can see what's in it. It's a much nicer picture. But you can see the potatoes in there. And I just started I bake the potatoes myself. I cut them up and I put a little bit of oil, and I just found a Greek seasoning mix that's wonderful. It's really aromatic and it's just awesome. You can see the feta cheese and it's tzatziki sauce.
And the feta cheese is what? Base
Heart.
Oh, Follow Your Heart. Yeah,
they nailed it with that feta. They really did. And there's tomatoes in there too. And
I think I had maybe Violife Parmesan a long time ago. I think Violife, and then there's one from Chow, I think is
right. That was good. Yes. Violife, Chow, and Follow Your Heart. There's other ones too, and there's a bunch of pieces. There's it's turning into $1 billion market making good vegan cheese. And there's a company that's figured out a way to actually duplicate casein without any animal inputs. And casein is like the secret ingredient, especially in hard cheeses, that give it its texture. But as we know from the China study by Dr. Campbell, it's also carcinogenic.
Right.
Protein.
And do you think oh, well, I forgot what I was going to say.
Now you're making me hungry looking at that food too.
I know, right? I wanted to I don't think I put
if you can find my indulgent forager.
I'll look for it right now. That's what it was. Thank you for reminding me. Indulgent forager. And it's on which page is it?
It's on my homepage, and it's also in Baltimore Vegans.
Okay, I'll find it. I'm gonna stalk
you
your
can't
page right now and find all that good food. I'm a food stalker over here. Oh, there it is. Oh my goodness. What are you doing to me?
All produce. All of that is from nature.
Right. That's amazing.
Even the guacamole is mashed up avocados.
Right. And people don't, nobody says mashed up avocados. We all know guacamole.
Guacamole, yeah.
Wait a minute. Okay, I've got it here. I just gotta save it over here.
Okay, yeah.
I don't know why I didn't just
the organic greens, the salad I use spring mix greens now exclusively, and those are always organic. I feel like the greens at least have to always be organic, and I get organic as much as I can. Sometimes you can't find it, and sometimes it's really expensive. The tomatoes are hard to find organic. Tomatoes are extremely expensive.
Yeah, I was gonna say a lot of food has gone up this particular year. So you started like in the corridor of probably one of the most difficult times for the restaurant industry.
Yeah, and I honestly I charge more than I'd even like to. I wish I could charge less.
Yeah.
But I can't. And I also use biodegradable food service items. I have biodegradable food gloves. Instead of the latex ones, I get biodegradable food. There it is.
Isn't that beautiful? Oh my
goodness.
That would be my thing right there. I already want to pre-order that for when I come there. I'll just make it.
Yeah.
I need that. So tell us.
This is one thing where it's not really hard to put together, but most people won't have all of that stuff in their fridge at once. And before I went into this, I like to eat out, and I always found like I really wished I could find a place that just had a big salad like this. All of this stuff in it, like a ton of stuff. And so that's why I had it, because I thought there's probably other people that feel like I do.
Thank you, because I've been raw vegan probably a lot
Oh,
of the time, or like
oh,
90% raw or all raw when I first started. I think that's how I cleared my palate though. Like I went 6 months, cut out everything, was only eating raw food. So as you can
uh-huh.
imagine, when I came back into cook food, all those old emotional things came back, and I was like, oh my gosh, they have all this. Like when I went vegan, there was no plant milk.
Right.
Barely. There was like soy, and then
Soy
it was like
powder.
within a couple years, all of a sudden the whole section
Yeah.
like went crazy, and I was like, I think that's because a lot of people, like you mentioned this earlier, lactose intolerant,
Yeah.
quote unquote, because instead of us just saying, oh, we probably aren't supposed to eat that, we developed a way to do it
Right.
anyway. I found
Right.
that after being vegan, I was like, that's funny. Like, and I don't think many people connect meat with the actual diseases and things that they might cause
Right.
in that correlation, because just like lactose intolerance so common, it's like we don't say we're
Well, it
meat
really should be lactose normal.
intolerant. Right.
I mean, we're
And
not baby cows. We
yes.
say that all the time. Is this like infant bovine growth formula? It's baby cow food. Now,
Right.
if we really needed infant formula, shouldn't we be having human infant formula? Oh,
Right, but we're
that would be
programmed, we need
weird, right?
that for protein and stuff, and we need meat to get our
Yeah,
B12. That's what we're
yeah.
told, right? Would you tell me what's in this again? I
Oh,
know you
sure.
meant.
There's the organic greens you can hardly see now, and there's a lot of carrot shreds that you can't really see either. And then there's the chickpeas, and I'm actually roasting the
There they
chickpeas
are. I
now, so they'll
love
be a little crunchy.
them.
Um, there next to that is purple cabbage,
Mm,
and there's orange bell
pepper.
peppers, and then there's artichoke hearts.
Oh, is that what those
There,
are?
yeah.
I thought it was tofu maybe for a second.
No, no. Although that wouldn't be a bad idea to put some tofu in there. And then there's avocados. It would make it super packed protein. And there's
I love
sunflower seeds.
avocados.
That's guacamole actually. It's nice. And then there's sunflower seeds, and then around the edges are the tomatoes, little tomato slices, and the snow pea pods
Oh,
cut
my
into bite-sized
favorite.
pieces. And then I would just have people select a dressing, and the dressing I always put on the side. They can put it whatever they want on it. So
What kind
that's
of dressings are like
Oh, I make an agave mustard dressing, and I use mayonnaise, agave I get organic agave syrup, and I get just regular mustard, and then I put a little tiny bit of wing sauce in it. I hate the name
mm,
wing sauce, but
I know, it's like everything is named so weird,
I
but
know,
that's just
but
like
wing sauce or
baked
hot sauce.
tomatoes, right?
I
Like,
like the wing sauce because of the combination of elements, but I put the smallest amount in to just give it a little bit of the slightest bit of flavorful kick. And that's the agave mustard. Then I have a ranch dressing that I get from Sprouts, but I'm going to be switching to a local business that makes vegan ranch dressing as soon as possible. I have a Thousand Island that not most people don't buy, and I have a vinaigrette, an oil and vinegar, a vinaigrette, and I say Thousand Island, and a fat-free zesty Italian.
wow, lots of choices. You know,
Right.
you would think you go to a vegan restaurant, you'd have like one choice of dressing, like, and you got like all these delicious ones. I think the only one so far that I had found before I went, like back on more Whole Foods was the Hidden Valley Plant Ranch. I don't know if you've ever
Oh,
had that one. That's pretty good. But I'd be
okay.
excited to try the local
Yeah,
version.
I would. In those the dressings can be really expensive too.
Hmm.
So the agave mustard, once I started making it, I sell it a lot. When I tell people I make it,
That's
that's
probably the
getting
best
them.
one too, the
Yeah,
one that you make.
and so that helps because it saves money for me too to be able to make that. And I'd like to make more if I could. I was blue cheese did not go do well, and the only vegan blue cheese I could find was Diane. It was really expensive, so I stopped that. I could probably make my own blue cheese with the feta that I have, though. We'll
That's
see.
pretty cool. Have you always been into cooking, like,
Yeah,
or this? Okay, I was
I've
gonna say
always
that
loved to cook
you
and
might
bake.
be a new restaurant owner, but you are not a new cook. I can tell with mixing
Yeah,
all these together. So that's
yeah.
cool. And you went to this lifestyle at 17 or so, so you've had
For
time
about
to.
6 years, yeah, but then I went back to eating animal products.
Hmm.
I
Well,
never
the
stopped
journey.
what?
I said our journeys
Yeah,
always come, full
right.
circle.
So when I hear people, there's recidivism, like people go vegan, they stop. To tell you the truth, I understand why it had become difficult for people, and I understand the social influences. These influences run really deep, and I don't really know the answer. How can we really change somebody? Can you really? Because somebody already has to have some kind of understanding within themselves. But I do that, and I think if they went vegan before, they could go back again because it happened to me. I was one of those people that stopped being vegetarian, and I came back around. But I've also been someone that's really open to change, and I'm not afraid to go against the status quo. And that is the biggest problem, is going against the status quo. People are afraid of being made fun of. They're afraid it's going to set them apart from all their family and friends, because it's when you think of it, how tribal, the social aspect of the tribalism behind food and its shared experience. So when someone says, I'm not eating what you're eating, they can become defensive and feel offended by that. So you really have to learn to navigate that. And I was talking with someone about that about a month ago, and I said, just let your family and friends know that you love them, that you're not doing this to go against them, that it's okay. And that's why I also think that it's important for us to be able to actually be around family and friends who aren't vegan while we're eating, and let them see that you're fine.
Hmm. I think this is a very difficult time of year for a lot of,
Yeah, yeah.
because you're, and I never
Hallelujah.
realized until I went vegan how many things revolved around
Yeah.
food. And then,
Mhm.
but like you said, I had to really make it a point, and actually, and I realized how much I just love being around my family, and it wasn't about the food at
Right,
that point, but it
right,
is about the food to everyone, especially who's
right.
preparing it. And like
Yeah.
you do, you have to find ways to meld in. And
Right.
Batman, welcome. He said everything looks great, Nancy. Follow your heart. Vegan honey mustard is my favorite store bought.
Oh, right.
Lots of other choices. Vegan allies in the house. And he gave us
Hey, yeah. Well,
heart.
honey,
Thank you for.
agave mustard is real easy to make yourself, because that's why I do it, and so it's a lot cheaper too. Um, but back to the point of the holiday times, like I know there are some people that feel like they do not want to sit at a table and eat with people, and I completely get that. I think if that's what you feel you need to do, absolutely, I would 100% support it, because I feel that way sometimes too. But I also think that there's, in for some other of us, there's still an important value of showing up as a vegan and
Mhm.
letting them know, that you're not, it's not an antisocial thing, because that's how people it might interpret it. So if you're going to do that, to really make sure that you explain to your family and friends why you need to do that, that it's not a personal thing against them, that this is just how I feel. Um, that's really important, and find other ways to associate and to be with them, to make sure that you still spend that quality time and know that you love them and that you still care about them. That's really important. But I don't like making it a kind of vegan religious thing, like if you're vegan and you eat with people who aren't, you're not really vegan kind of. I've seen that
Yeah.
attitude a little bit. I was like, don't go there, don't do that,
If we
please.
want, I guess, to your
No.
thing, all gel in as one, we have to show them, and then bring the vegan
Yeah,
Thanksgiving food
yeah,
if you eat that way, if you do
right,
eat that type of thing, or bring something that you're eating that, you
yeah,
know, and like, I guess the act of eating with them is part of, instead of just to your point, sitting there and preaching about, why,
yeah,
and then you can kind of explain it like you do in a nice, melded into the conversation if you
right.
could be, and or I was just thinking too, what other ways can they find you? Like, I know you gave me
Oh,
the website, it's in the description. And then is
mhm.
there, like, do you have a Facebook also? I think you gave
Yeah,
me.
I have I'm sorry, a Wild Heart Bistro by Botanic Cuisine, but you just Wild Heart Bistro into Facebook and you'll find it.
Mhm. Cool.
And then there's my website. I have I'm on Twitter, but I really never use it. Instagram. I have some photos up. I know I got to get more active on Instagram too. That seems to be.
Me too. I can't seem to remember it. I
Yeah.
always go to Facebook. I'm like old school lady.
Yeah, Facebook is still a powerful tool, but yeah. So those are the ways right now. I have my own YouTube channel, but I haven't been doing much with it in a long time. Although in 2019, 19 around, for about a year, I started doing interviews on my YouTube channel.
Oh,
And I have
cool.
a bunch of good interviews there. So I'm one of these days I should go back there and connect up with it and maybe
That
um,
would be neat.
put it out. Yeah. But I do have on my Wild Heart Bistro website, I do have a place to sign up for updates. And I say there once a month, but it's been about 6, 7 months since I sent one out. So I need to get back onto that. I did have a lot of people sign up for it through my website. Sign up for
Nice.
the monthly mailing. So I think that'll help getting there. And also, before I do anything else, I really want to get nailed a system that I can implement that will help with the food prep flow so people
Mhm.
don't have to wait obnoxiously long times, and which doesn't happen a lot, but when it does, it's really awful. I know that. So that's kind of my next movement before I even do more outreach to get more people in with
That's really smart because, you don't the worst thing I've heard this from a lot of restaurant owners, the only thing worse than not having enough business is having too much
too much.
business when
Yeah.
it's mealtime and
Yeah.
everybody's hungry, and then you don't want their first experience, to
Yeah.
but I
Well,
think
yeah.
knowing that you're privately owned and knowing that you're trying to really it seems like you do a lot all on yourself, so
Mhm.
of course you can't post on Instagram, YouTube, I mean, you're a superwoman, but we got to give you a time to prepare everything, right, and get it ready for us. You don't
Yeah,
want to.
I'm also looking at having more casserole dishes. Or, making like I was thinking like because I love this vegan feta, I make a big spinach pie. And those kind of things will be real easy and quick to turn over. So things that have less assembly to them.
Spaghetti.
Spaghetti.
That could be a good one.
Yeah, that's actually one of my original plans in my original menu was like spaghetti and vegan meatballs.
There, I
Um,
would love that. Right, that's a good.
yeah,
It would
that's
be
a little
quick,
more
I think.
complicated than it sounds though, but
Yeah, probably.
I
Everything
have
sounds
some red
easy when
lentil
you're doing it.
rotini, and I I put some veggies on it and some um, cream sauce, and it didn't really sell. It
Hmm.
might have been marketing. A lot of it also has to do with the marketing. How you market it, and sometimes you just have to have it for a while before people catch on. But that was stroganoff. It was like a stroganoff dish that I wanted to make. So the problem with something like that is you can make the pasta ahead of time, but then if it doesn't sell, after 5 to 7 days, you have to throw it out.
You don't want to waste it.
Yeah, so that's a big problem, like making enough food so that you have it, but also not making so much that you have to throw food out because food waste is horrible, you know. So I don't really know how to get around that because I do run out of things sometimes, and
Mhm.
I just tell people, I'll have it soon. But I think that can be disappointing as well. But at the same time, I don't want to end up having to throw so much food out, which it happens anyway.
That sounds like a struggle, like that,
Hmm.
knowing that balance until you're actually at a point where you might have more, like exactly like these are the dishes that
Yeah,
sell like that. So probably over time it's gotten maybe a little easier, but still
yeah.
that's like I run into that with just my own refrigerator because I can imagine feeding a bunch of people, like
And
okay.
not knowing what people are going to buy.
Yeah, I know at least I know what I'm gonna eat.
Yeah.
So like I'm not gonna be
Yeah,
like
and there's certain things I see that sell well, like the chickpea salad has sold really well, and the bean burger sells really well. And bean burger and the Beyond Meat can be frozen, so that helps a lot with
mm,
things that you can serve frozen. The fillet comes frozen, so in that way, and it lasts quite a while in the freezer. So in that way, that's one way that actually can help cut back on food waste, is having things that you're frozen. Unfortunately, it's not as nice as fresh cooked. I know that, but you're also eliminating a lot of food waste.
That's true. And I don't know. I feel like I just am like so excited that we finally connected here. I keep
Yeah.
talking and going on and more questions, but I realized I've kept you. I don't know how long we've been on here now, but I know we were a few minutes late, but I think I was accounting for that. And all of a sudden I realized another half hour went by and I was like, oh, sorry. I'm like, I know you're busy. So
Shoot another question at me. Go ahead.
okay. I was just thinking like what do you think like the main like message, I guess, in case we wrap up here in a little bit. What do you think the main message you'd want to give about, to others might be thinking of opening a vegan restaurant
Yeah.
business, or like to people that are thinking of going vegan, or just your overall message that you've learned over these years?
Well, I think we need a lot more vegan places. I wish I had a partner to work with, but it's really hard to find people like that. So it would be nice to have, somebody to go through it with, but to just really be passionate about it and make sure that you do one step at a time. Don't get too big too soon. Like when I first opened, I was only open for lunch, 11 to 2, 5 days, and I had really limited menu. And awful things will happen. There was all kinds of things that go on with, like I had to upgrade the electricity in the stall, and it turned out that I went ahead and did it, and I let the management know that there were problems, but I didn't get it documented, and so I had to pay for this massive upgrade, and the management refused to help pay for any of it.
Oh my
Some of
goodness.
it they should have. Some of it I should have, but some of it they should have. So that like really knocked me for a loop.
Mm,
Um, and yeah, I mean, just to not be like I was a little bit naive and a little more trusting than I should have been. Just to make sure you check everything out ahead of time, especially with things like electricity. Know what's working, know where it is, know the expenses. There's expenses like that you don't even predict, but figure, double what you think it even might be, and make sure that you take your time, in developing it. Um, and don't grow too big too soon.
mhm.
I wouldn't be ready for franchising probably for a couple of years. I wouldn't even try it. And I don't even know if I'd want to. Be more headaches than
Right.
that's all I need is more, but I love it, and that's the thing. That's what's kept me going, because it's very mission oriented to me. So it's really a labor of love, and talk to people. I really interact with everybody that comes in as much as possible. That stands there. We have conversations, and
That's
really
neat.
really cool stuff. Yeah. And what was your other question?
Um, I can't remember, but I did want to ask you, what do you like? Do you feel like you get a lot of vegans, or like people that are not vegan yet, or people
Oh,
just checking it out, or what's your typical customers?
I would say vegans might be 25%, maybe a
Really?
quarter or a third, I think, because when people tell me they're vegan, I high five them. I go, "Yeah, you're vegan."
Wow,
Like
that's neat.
somebody came and their friend was really vegan friendly. And I said, "And you're vegan friendly. Woo!" So I get very excited when I meet another vegan. And I've been surprised at some of the people that said they were. There were people that just seemed so thoroughly like mainstream, even older people, kind of like me. And I'm
You're
just
not
like,
old.
and I've met people that have been vegan like 30, 40 years. And I'm always so grateful when I do, because I thought, how did they figured it out? Well, the
So
rest of
early,
us
right?
were like oblivious to the obvious, and they figured it out. I'm so grateful that they really set the foundation for what's happening now.
Yes, I think I can't remember how many years, but Angela Frischetti is going to come on and give us a yoga workout on Wednesday, and she's been vegan for a lot of years, Mariquita. So, and
Right.
then who was on here? Oh, I can't remember, but I remember interviewing someone, and I'm drawing a blank who it was, who's been vegan like a very long time, and I'm like, dude, that is so cool, because it's like they've watched the
Yeah.
revolution,
Yeah.
of these things that we say. Oh, like for me, I'm like, in the last 5 years, I've seen a lot more vegan products and interest, and not as much. And then
Right.
can imagine over, 50 years,
Right.
But thank you,
Well,
Light
it's
and Angel. That's why could not remember. How could I forget those two beautiful names?
uh-huh.
Yes,
It's
Light, he's
really very new.
50
You know,
some
people get
years.
impatient, but this vegan movement as an actual recognized thing into mainstream is very, very new. And veganism isn't new. And before the word was created, there were people that were. There were whole cultures that were. Like the Rastafarians have been pretty much like that, not like that. They're the Blue Zones. You know, Dan Butner came out on Netflix, and I saw him speak a number of years ago, and he's has a massive influence. And the Blue Zones is very, very, very plant based, and they even they'll say you can be 100% plant based. It's fine, but it's very new. So I have to remind myself of that too, because it's easy to get impatient. Like, why don't they understand? But then
Yeah,
I have seen and these massive influences around what people eat and how it's supported by our culture, and people want to be in the safety of the in crowd,
yeah,
just like being the in crowd. Like one of the ways that Slutty Vegan got so popular is she made it really cool
yeah.
vegan to eat vegan food. It's so cool. People wait, like I said, over an hour to order at her food truck.
I didn't even think of making a name like Slutty for my
I know
channel.
who
What
is.
was I thinking,
It's
right? I was trying to be
brilliant.
too wholesome.
I know
Um,
it's brilliant marketing. It is. I have her cookbook too, and I want to make. She has a vegan kind of meaty loaf. That's one of the other things I want to
oh,
make at
that
some point
sounds good.
too. It
And
was
learning
brilliant,
that
brilliant marketing. So a lot of it is just marketing, and positioning it in a way that people say, "Oh, that's really cool," and that's part of what I want to do too. I was like, "This is really fun and it's exciting," and then Wild Heart.
yes, I love the name, and
Yeah,
I like the fact that, if we're on that, I mean, we don't want to hide the fact that we're vegan. Sometimes, though, I tend to use words like plant-based, just because I feel like somewhere along the line, and I think to your point, it might be sometimes the people who are a little bit harsh.
yeah,
And sometimes when we figure all this out and we have so much love for
hmm,
animals and the plant, it's like, and none
yeah,
of us are perfect. I'm probably used,
right,
a plastic bottle that might along the line have had an issue. You know what I mean? So it's like, but sometimes when we learn all this, it's like you just want everybody
yeah,
to get it, and you
yeah,
put it out the wrong way sometimes.
yeah,
I think, that's one of the reasons that vegan sometimes scares people away, because
right,
it's the unknown. And if we can
yes,
make it like reel them, I hate the word
right,
real. Oh my God, everything has something to do with animal
right,
suffering, right? I'm like, but if we can bring them in, I'll say,
yeah,
with good food and positive,
right.
then we
Make
can
it
get them to
attractive
listen.
so people will attract to it. And then
Mhm.
instead of us having, "Come over here, come over here," come here," like make it this wonderful thing, and then people say, "Oh, that looks really good, really a plant," because people know the animals have to get slaughtered. They know that, and people know that animal cruelty is wrong. They might not get all the other things, but when you can make this so attractive, a lot of people, to tell you the truth, will figure it out just like we did.
Mhm.
You won't have to force the issue. And some people they might not, their understanding may never run as deep.
Mhm.
And that's just the way it is. But
As the
once
world becomes more, it
right,
becomes more
right,
mainstream,
yeah,
supporting those vegan products and
yeah,
options, and and restaurants that are vegan can really truly help,
yeah,
kind of do it, I guess, like, make the movement move along, because that's the only, like, it has to become typical or something common, for people to be able to get it
right.
accessible. And I think I was getting ready to say pre-vegan. That's what Mariquita
Oh,
always
I
says.
love
I
that
like
term
that. We're
too.
just you're feeding the pre-vegans,
Right.
right?
Yeah, yeah. Well, and the other thing I wanted just kind of my mind was the issue of animal rights, because that's a really, really big, you know, justice movement of justice, and it's so important. And animal rights is very closely tied into human rights as well. But I don't think that animal rights is the core issue of why people eat animals. I don't think it's because they want to be cruel or want to deny them their rights. Like I said earlier, that they believe they need to. and these deeply, deeply rooted customs, and everybody, else around them. So, but I'll tell you, everybody knows a vegan now. I get so many people that come to go, oh, I'm going to tell my friend or my daughter, or I know somebody over here who's a vegan. I say, that's great, thank you, but know that this food's for everybody.
It sounds like you're coming up with all these great T-shirt names, because I like that. Everybody loves a vegan, or everybody
Oh
knows a
yeah,
vegan, right?
yeah,
That's great.
yeah. So yeah, so I think, while if of course it's a really important issue, but I think it becomes like that's really not the core issue of why people still eat animals. I think it's part of our evolution as a species to recognize that, but we live in a world where there are still so many human rights violations that animal rights is going to take a lot longer. But certainly keeping that violence out of our bodies, and that normalized violence of using animals, especially like with food, like could you put it into your, that relationship, that utility has to be broken first. And then I think then once that utility is broken, then it's going to be much easier for people to stand up for animal rights. I mean, look what happened a number of years ago with Cecil the lion. People were in uproar. People throughout the world were so
I was thinking of
mad.
something similar to that. I was like, it's so wild how I can see on Facebook someone will share a picture of a dog or a cat, and be like, "Isn't this terrible?" Or, "We need to help this
Right.
animal,"
Mhm.
and
So they
then
know.
they're sitting and
Yeah,
eating
eating
a
right.
burger and not connecting it, because I didn't either.
Yeah,
I was doing the same
exactly.
stuff.
Mhm.
I was like, "Oh, if that
Yeah,
pet needs a home, I'll take him in," and this and that,
right.
while I'm promoting killing billions. I mean, how many
Yeah,
is it? Like, I forget the number. I think it's billions.
80 billion average a year worldwide, and about 10 billion in the US. Americans eat 50 billion burgers a year. This is a statistic that I found in a number of places, and it makes sense. So we have these Beyond Meat burgers and Impossible burgers that caused such an uproar among, there's a lot of infighting about them. But those burgers have played a massive role in reducing that number, and it's so important. I get whole food, plant based. I know that's the healthiest thing, but if we really want to help end animal agriculture, we I think are doing a great disservice to the animals and to the world by dismissing the very products that are designed to replace what people are used to. You're not going to get these people that go into these fast food places to eat lentils and tofu instead.
And there might be a way that over time, as
Yeah.
things evolve, that we can find, because I know there are people who can make whole food, plant-based, no salt, no sugar, all that
Yeah.
tastes good, but like to your point, this has to be something too that people can walk in the grocery store and walk back and say, you know what, instead of eating this animal, I'm going to choose this that looks the
Right.
exact same, and that takes their hand away from that meat, which then takes
Exactly.
that money away from them, which then says, hey,
Right.
maybe I should make a plant meat. And then
Right.
I had someone kind of like a conversation on Facebook once. They were like, don't support such and such company because they also make dairy
Yeah.
product. And I'm like, but I want them to know I'd prefer the vegan
Yes.
product, or I share it because
Yeah.
even though it's not, like, I guess my page kind of has people that are thinking about being vegan that just
Right.
came on my
Right.
page because they know me and they don't have
Right.
any clue what vegan is. So I feel like I'm torn sometimes by, like, people may think, oh, trying to make people not as healthy. I'm like, I
Right.
eat the way I want to. I can do whole food plant based with the
Right.
occasional burger, but I
Mhm.
want everybody to know there's options
Yeah.
out there, like you said, to get them away from the animal
Yeah.
product is what's
That's the easiest and the quickest. Is the least change that they have to make. They can
important.
still have that experience of eating a burger. They can still have that experience of eating eggs. So you're not taking that experience away from them. You're just taking the source of it. And that to me is the quickest and easiest way to get there. And once, these products, they may, after 10 years, if more and more people do go vegan and experience, Whole Foods, maybe those products will fizzle away. Fine. But until then, we're in a crisis, and we have to help people to move away from eating and using, animals, pound fish, as quickly as possible. And the quickest and easiest was with the least amount of change. You go to the store, instead of choosing this, you choose this. That easy. you know and to try to say, no, stop eating this, and don't eat hamburgers, and don't eat this, and don't eat that, is like, vegan can't be a series of no's.
That's
I've
true.
been saying that for years. You can't just put no, 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 no. What are the yeses?
And also, to your point, what are like the transition of companies that do this for a living, that's been
Yeah.
in their family for years, whether it's a regular type restaurant, whether it's a farm, they have to have another means. There has to be
Yeah.
resources to say, okay, here's how you can
Right.
now start making this type of product. And
Companies are doing that.
hmm
That's been happening. I know there's a rancher advocacy program from Renee King Sonnen and Tommy Sonnen. They have Rowdy Girl Sanctuary. There's
yes,
another program like that. Yeah, and there's a Elmhurst Dairy was a 95-year-old dairy in New York City, I think in Brooklyn, and they stopped and they went right into plant-based milks and products.
that's great.
And I see things like that all the time. So it is.
Somebody went into mushrooms instead
Yeah,
of
mushrooms. What people don't realize is, actually, with animal agriculture, it demands industrialized farming to be able to feed the masses. I get the regenerative thing and having them out, but that that if they people say want to still animals, but they want to still they want to end factory farming, but they still want to eat animals. Well, you're creating an elitist food, first of all. It is literally impossible to produce all of the animals that to feed people and still do it in a way, and they still have to end up being slaughtered. There's a lot of other issues there that I won't go into, but yeah, so
welcome, Jacqueline. Jacqueline Rose said, "Thank you for sharing amazing vegan food with the world, Nancy.
thank
People
you.
will be more likely to go vegan when they realize they don't need to compromise taste." And then she mentioned vegan for animal rights.
Yeah.
That's beautiful. Thank you for your comment, and for, I think I saw you maybe subscribe too. I really appreciate that. And yes, thank you for sharing this message and the making good food for people to come in. Because look at you mentioned that you have like maybe 80% not vegan yet,
I think
so
so. Yeah.
you may have, look at how many seeds you've planted
Yeah.
to help people, at least get
Yeah.
the message out, and that might make them,
Yeah.
something else might spark them later, or maybe they end up having a health concern, or they find someone else that they know is vegan and it starts to like click, or they see something on Facebook. To your point, it's a compilation of events that make us
Right.
go vegan.
Right. Yeah, it is. And people will have different reasons and different approaches. And it's all good. You can't dictate what should be important to somebody. You have to align with that.
hmm
So
Make
align,
it
find
positive.
out
I
what's
love
already
that.
important to them and help align with that. But we have to be respectful. Even though there's those few and far between people that kind of maybe end up being so obnoxious that you just want to go, "Wah!"
Right. But most people I've found are pretty
Yeah,
respectful, and they haven't made the connection, and that's what we're here to kind of connect the dots, but in
right,
a way that's, like, to your point, it's respectful and it's informative, and not putting a negative spin on being vegan. We want it to be
right. Yeah,
good thing. Like, people are more inclined to do things that make them happy, with the exception of a lot of people probably get up and go to work because they need to make money. But, and a lot of people do love their job, and people that
yeah,
are healthier tend to go to work, I guess,
right.
happier. But, like, if we make it a positive thing and be like, look at all these people, they're not angry and bitter and unhappy, and they're
Exactly.
feeling good and they're
And
healthy.
then introduce them to other ways, to live more compassionately too, like vegan products
Mhm.
and products that don't have animal testing involved. And like there's vegan leathers coming out now. So it's really important that we don't make vegan just about food, but it is a primary thing, and it is such a primary way that people, relate to, I hate the word relationship, but um, that relationship with using some, beings using them for their bodies can do and produce, to that whole idea to be extracted from that, and to say, no, they're not here for us.
Hmm.
Maybe we're here for them.
Yeah,
Maybe we're here as compassionate beings that we hopefully will be someday, to help create a world that every being can live and thrive in. So maybe we're here for them. I think so.
I definitely think you're here for them because you are making a lot of changes, and I think that's really really cool. And I really appreciate you spending so much time here with me
Oh,
today.
I love it. Thank you, Jen. Thank you so much for having me. It's my favorite thing to talk about.
Me
What a movie.
too. I could probably keep you for like 10 hours.
Yeah,
We won't do that. We
we're gonna
eventually
bore
have to
everybody.
eat, right? I hear your phone starting to blow up there. Like, all right, what's going
Oh,
on? Well, but
there's
thank
some
you. Is
messages.
there like anything you want to say? Batman said great points. Nancy enjoyed listening to both of you. Yes,
Thank
thank
you.
you for
Good.
all your insights and your knowledge. And is there anything you want to say, like in closing, that we haven't covered or gotten to?
I think we need to help each other to stay positive without losing, our our understanding. I mean, there's a term I heard called toxic positivity, and I'm not talking about that, but we really need to be able to support each other, and be there for each other, and really try to, know that there's hope, and not lose sight of that, and not let the violence dictate who we are, because it can very easy to fall into that trap. Very easy when you start seeing, all of the awful things that are done, that humans do to each other, that humans do to, innocent sentient beings who are really at our mercy. Be very easy to go down that deep dark hole and not know your way out. But I really believe that there's hope, and I think that we as human beings, our natural state is one of love and joy, and to be able to get through things without letting them drown us.
That's a
So,
great message. Like
yeah.
our
I've watched Earthlings twice, but I won't watch it again.
I
And
don't think I
I
watched
don't need
anything like that.
to re-victimize myself with that. I know those things are there, and I know what I'm doing. I'm still very, committed to helping out. It's, finding that balance within ourselves. I think it's really important.
That's a great message. And I think at the core, to your point, when we're born, we are, but not only our digestive tract mentions it, but like our emotional state, and how we really, if we weren't programmed, we would choose the
Yeah,
compassionate route as
sure,
humans. I
yeah,
really truly believe that. And
yeah.
that's why it's just like then it's getting people return to that compassion, because the world can get the best of you sometimes. So I love
Yeah.
your message of love and good food with love that doesn't
And
involve.
breaking that utility, that perception of utility, because that's really the issue, more than even an issue of animal rights with
That's true.
food. It's breaking that utility. People need to know that they can be, healthy and happy and safe, and normalizing it. Like, let's get in on the bandwagon of what's normal and real, and I think we'll see major shift when we can accomplish that.
That is excellent. And thank you for everything you're doing to make that happen with your passion and your restaurant, and for coming on and sharing that delicious food and making us all hungry. Batman, thank you for coming. I really appreciate you joining. And Jacqueline Rose, Mariquita, J&J Video, thank you. And
Thanks, everybody.
all right, we will see you soon. Thank you, Nancy.
Thank
If you
you
have
so
any
much,
other
Jen. Thank
products, feel
you.
free to share them on my Veganowledge page.
Okay.
All right. Thank
Thanks,
you.
everyone, for joining us. I can't see any names, but I want to, very glad that you joined us. Thanks a lot.
All right. Have a great evening and thank you.
Okay.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye, everyone.